Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Heath Wattenmaker. So nice to see you. Hi, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom, Cantor Spall. Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Brosnet. Shabbat Shalom to all of you.
We're going to begin with a new melody for this little Modeh Ani Elohai Neshama, a little mashup. I'd like to thank my friend Harold Messinger, who wrote this beautiful melody. A statement of gratitude to begin this Shabbat. You could say, Modeh Ani Lefanecha, I am grateful to you. Ruach Chai V'Kayam, Spirit, eternal spirit of the universe. Here we go. Modeh Ani Lefanecha, Ruach Chai V'Kayam. 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 Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi. Tehora Hi. Tehora Hi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi. Elohai Neshama Shenatata Bi. Tehora Hi. Tehora Hi. Hareini mikabel alai et mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Hareini mikabel alai mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Hareini mikabel alai mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la. Hareini mikabel alai mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Hareini mikabel alai mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha.
Shabbat Shalom. It is good to be with you here this evening. I'm joined by my colleagues, Cantor Jamie Spall, whose beautiful voice you just heard, Rabbi Jonathan Prosnet, and I'm Rabbi Heath Wattenmaker. Good to be back as well. I'm just getting back from a little bit of time away but not away, just not as much time in this particular room as I've been spending lately. But it's good to be back, good to be here with all of you at the end of quite a historic week, as we saw the swearing in of our nation's first vice president, who is female and African American and Asian American. Truly a beautiful moment, regardless of your politics, of moving the needle forward in American politics and American history. Certainly opening the door for people who look different than us, who think differently than us, for my daughter's generation and beyond. And we enter into this peaceful time of Shabbat. We start off by bringing in some light. So Cantor, I'll turn it back to you as we bring in a little light before Maya Eisenberg and her family light the candles.
Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. May you have a peaceful day. Shabbat Shalom. May you have a restful day. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. As we watch the candles shine, Shabbat Shalom. Cover the challah, pour the wine. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. Time to take a big deep breath. Shabbat Shalom. A special day for us to rest. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
As we go through our service this evening, I'll be calling out page numbers for our Siddur. If you've got the full volume, there is only one set of page numbers, and those are the numbers that I'll be calling out. If you've got just the skinnier Shabbat volume, you'll see that there are two sets of numbers. So the larger numbers are the ones that I'll be calling out correspond to the numbers in brackets. And if you don't have a prayer book, you can find a link to the Siddur that we'll be using right above this streaming window on our streaming page, betham.org/streaming. So we'll continue now as I invite our bat mitzvah for tomorrow, Maya Eisenberg, along with her family, to lead us in candlelighting on page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
And I'll invite Maya and her family to lead us in Kiddush, our blessing over our Shabbat wine or juice, on page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher letziot mitzrayim ki banu bacharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uveratzon yinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Amen l'chaim. Mazel tov, Maya. Continue our service as we welcome Shabbat as if it were a bride, because indeed the opportunity to rest, the opportunity to breathe is a lovely, beautiful thing that is welcome at the end of each week. We'll continue on page 138 and chant verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Shamor v'zachor b'diborecha yishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem tiferet v'nitli Kivod Adonai alayich nigla. Yai lai lai, ya la 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 lecha todi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nikabela. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, יאי לי לי, יא לה 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 לך תודי, יא לה 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 לקראת כלה, יא לה 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 פני שבת נקבלה, יא לה 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 לך תודי, יא לה 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 לקראת כלה, יא לה 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 פני שבת
As we turn to Baruch Hu on page 146, I invite you to lift yourselves up, either physically or spiritually, as we sing our call to worship. Page 146. Continue with our chant for Ma'ariv Aravim, our evening prayer, roll into dark.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei Yom Halayla. dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
Page 152, we declare the unity of all things. The words of the Shema, page 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושופטך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. Turn to page 158. If you tune in tomorrow morning when Maya reads her Torah portion and offers her interpretation, you'll see we are at the section of the book of Exodus where we're close to freedom. Freedom is about to happen. The final section before the people leave Egypt. And so we sing our song of freedom now like we do each week, knowing that freedom is not just for today, not just for this Shabbat, but for always.
Ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim bim bam, ya bye bye bim bam. Ay 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 ay, ya bye bye bim bam. Ay 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 ay, ya bye bye bim bam. Mi hamocha bainim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh, no rati lo dosei vele, no rati lo dosei vele, ma'alechutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe v'Miriam, Ameru Adonai Yimloch Leolam Vaed. Yabai bai bim bim bam, yabai bai bim bam, yabai bai bim bim bam, yabai bai bim bam. Ay 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 ay, yabai bim bam. Ay 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 ay, yabai bim bam. Venemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov. וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני.
Aleph Ubruk Shemo.
על ישראל.
As I was driving my boys to school today over the hills of Woodside, I noticed a beautiful full rainbow. A rainbow is the sign of the covenant as taught in the book of Genesis, and every time you see a rainbow, you see a blessing to remember the covenant. And then I also pulled into my office at Beth Am briefly, and I went on the Palo Alto webpage, Palo Alto newspaper, and I saw there was a story about homelessness. And so I think about these call for shelter and call for covenant and how much they run through our lives, that some people really need literal shelter, especially in the rain. Some people are just searching for figurative shelter. Our prayer with the words of Hashkivenu on 160 is that all who seek shelter are able to find it.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukkot. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
The Amidah, the standing prayer, begins on page 164. If you would like, and if your mood strikes you, I invite you to rise at this time. We'll say the meditation and then the first few blessings, and then have our own moment or two of silent prayer.
Ya la lai lai lai, 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 ya la lai lai lai. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufiya. תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imaot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח מוריד הגשם, מקלקל חיים בחסד, בחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, או מי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, בחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. a state of true believers on a street called Asanen. It's gonna take some time till the world feels safe again. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone? Will you remember and bring me sprigs of rosemary? Be my sanctuary till I can carry on. Be my refuge.
Thank you, Cantor Spall. That was so beautiful. I don't think I've heard you sing that before. And what a beautiful, touching song for the moment. It actually fits very well in the section of the service where we offer our prayers for healing, our Misha Berach Lecholim. May these individuals find refuge. If you're thinking of someone who needs healing of mind, body, spirit, at this time I invite you to say their name out loud. The Beth Am community is praying for healing for Jeff Alkazam, Willard Burtz, Mason Easley, Arlene Gilliand, Cricket Glad, Moritz and Dorothy Hupert, Harold Muckamal, Peggy Pizzo, Dale Prinstein, Dr. Alan Weber, Eleanor Yowitz, Steve Ware, and Celia Wedner. The words of the Misha Berach Lecholim are on page 371.
The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say
Our nation's first transfer of presidential power came on March 4th, 1797, as a calm, radiant George Washington bid farewell to the nation and then introduced his successor, President John Adams, who had served faithfully as his vice president. Back in September of 1796, when President Washington announced that he would be stepping down, he warned his young country of the dangers of forming political parties and urged them to always exalt the just pride of patriotism more than any appellation derived from local discriminations. With pomp and circumstance and the support of his predecessor, Adams was sworn in as the second president of the United States. As President Adams later reflected, he thought Washington looked as serene as the unclouded day, which worried him. He continued, "He seemed to me to enjoy a triumph over me. Methought I heard him say, I am fairly out and you fairly in. See which one of us will be happiest." The first real test of this peaceful transfer of power came only 4 years later. The election of 1800 had been a bitter, brutal, and drawn-out saga. There were power plays and endless maneuvering among the political parties that had emerged during Adams' tumultuous presidency. It seemed that the very fate of the nation hung in the balance. Even the process of voting took nearly 9 months. The vote in the Electoral College, which held much more than just a symbolic role back in 1800, ended in a tie. Incumbent John Adams could only muster 65 votes, and Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr tied with 73 votes apiece. It was a battle between the Federalists represented by Adams and the Democratic Republicans, Jefferson and Burr. As one historian remarked, a general mood of crisis and fear of disunion plagued the press, as the House of Representatives took 6 days and 36 ballots before breaking Jefferson's deadlock with Aaron Burr. Finally, the outcome was decided, but the tumult and the animosity between political parties had everyone on edge leading up to Inauguration Day on March 4th, 1801. In fact, the animosity ran so deep that it is said that President John Adams quietly departed the White House, the half-built city of Washington, D.C., shortly after 4 o'clock in the morning on Inauguration Day, and was well outside the city before Jefferson took the oath of office. But for many Americans at that time, including Margaret Bayard Smith, the 18th century author and political commentator, the day of Jefferson's inauguration underscored the durability of American democracy. Raised in a Federalist household and married to a Democratic Republican newspaper editor, Smith savored the shift. She wrote, "I have this morning witnessed one of the most interesting scenes a free people can ever witness. The changes of administration, which in every government and in every age have most generally been epochs of confusion, villainy, and bloodshed, in this our happy country take place without any species of distraction or disorder. For Adams and Jefferson alike, the driving need to sustain the fledgling democracy and preserve the Union overrode party demands." From that moment on, the peaceful transfer of power became a bedrock of American democracy. Despite embroiled political infighting and even in the midst of a civil war, Inauguration days came and went, with fanfare and celebration, a moment of pride in American democracy and civility. Until 2 weeks ago, we Americans took this peaceful transition for granted. It seemed inevitable, just the way things are done here. But that moment of insurrection, the storming of the Capitol, whose hallowed halls I've had the privilege of walking each year with our confirmation students, sowed seeds of doubt and despair for what laid ahead for our democracy. As Rabbi Weissman so beautifully consoled us 2 weeks ago, in that moment, America didn't feel like our America. I know for many, the last 2 weeks brought much anxiety and trepidation. Many of us watched with concern as fences and the National Guard were deployed and the National Mall was cleared. I will admit that I wasn't sure I could write this sermon until a day or two had passed after the inauguration. The aftermath would really determine what was needed in this moment. But in the end, peace and calm prevailed. Just like 4 years ago, and 4 years before that, and 4 years before that. A vice president and president stood at the Capitol and took their oaths of office. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the historic nature of Vice President Kamala Harris as the first female, first African American, and first Asian American vice president. As President Biden said in his inaugural address, democracy has prevailed. Though James Corden, host of The Late Late Show, noted, yes, democracy prevailed, but the game definitely went into overtime, didn't it? As Margaret Smith wrote 120 years ago, there is a long history of bloodshed and violence surrounding changes in administration. In Jewish tradition, our text certainly set an aspirational tone for how transitions of power ought to proceed. In Deuteronomy, a story that lies at the far end of the story of the Exodus that is being set in motion in our Torah portion, Bo, this week, we find a powerful example of how to effectively transfer power, as Moses appoints Joshua as his successor, who will lead the Israelites into the promised land. We read, Moses went and spoke these things to all Israel. He said to them, I am now 120 years old. I can no longer be active. Moreover, Adonai has said to me, you shall not go across yonder Jordan. Adonai your God will cross over before you, and God will wipe out those nations from your path, and you shall dispossess them. Joshua is the one who shall cross before you, as Adonai has spoken. Adonai will deliver them up to you, and you shall deal with them in full accordance with the instruction that I have enjoined upon you. Be strong and resolute. Be not in fear or in dread of them, for Adonai your God marches with you. God will not fail you or forsake you. Then Moses called Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and resolute, for it is you who shall go with this people into the land that Adonai swore to their fathers to give them, and it is you who shall apportion it to them. Much like an inauguration, and indeed a model for today's rabbinic ordination, Moses, in front of the entire Israelite community, publicly states his faith, and according to the text, God's faith as well, in Joshua, with the charge chazak ve'amatz, be strong and resolute, be strong and courageous. Our tradition understands that this public display allayed any fears that Joshua's leadership might be doubted, directly linking Joshua's leadership to Moses and his legacy. Indeed, the rabbis of the Mishnah recognize this crucial moment of this transition of leadership, and it becomes a cornerstone of their own self-definition of their power and authority. In Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our ancestors, the rabbis link themselves to Moses as the inheritors of a Shalshelet HaKabbalah, a long chain of transmission of traditions. Moshe kibel Torah misinai, umisara liYehoshua. Moses received Torah at Sinai and transmitted it to Joshua, Joshua to the elders to the prophets transmitted it on to the men of the great assembly, the rabbis. Though Moses receives the Torah at Sinai, in Hebrew, kibel, he then transmits it. The Hebrew word is misara, which is a transmission or handing down of both content and authority. Implicit in this transmission is a sense of bestowing trust and faith in the next generation. At our B'nai Mitzvah, we often speak of the bar or bat mitzvah as taking their place as the newest link in this Shalshelet HaKabbalah, our chain of Jewish tradition that stretches way back into our past and reaches far ahead into our future, which requires their active participation and ownership of their Jewish identity. For me, one of the most powerful and inspiring moments of the inauguration this week was National Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman's powerful performance of her poem, The Hill We Climb. In her conclusion, she offers us all a charge and a challenge. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. Every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the west. We will rise from the windswept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. In every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country, our people diverse and beautiful will emerge, battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Fortunately, this week brought another peaceful transfer of power, and a new president and vice president took the oath of office on Wednesday without any event. Now the work of healing the soul of our nation begins. As Gorman reminds us, there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Thank you, Rabbi Wattenmaker. Beautiful words. We were all so inspired by the poem. The future is certainly good in good hands. I just want to remind everyone that one of the ways that at Beth Am that we ensure that people are in good hands is through the act of tzedakah. Each month we collect tzedakah for a worthy organization. This month we're going to collect for the JDC, the Joint Distributions Committee, Coronavirus COVID-19 Emergency Fund for Israel. All the information is on the Beth Am webpage, so we ask you to be as generous as possible. You contribute on the Beth Am webpage, or you can send a check to the Beth Am office, mark tzedakah box. And then, of course, after our services, I'll invite you to join the foyer, which is a place to schmooze and hang and celebrate Shabbat with others. You'll see the link up on the screen, betham.org, the foyer. I like to bring your own cookies. You can bring wine or tea or hot cocoa, whatever inspires you, but a nice way to schmooze with some other members of the Beth Am community. Page 294 are the words of Mourner's Kaddish. I'm thinking today of two quotes by a great man, Hamray and Hank Aaron. In playing ball and in life, a person occasionally gets the opportunity to do something great. When that time comes, only two things matter: being prepared to seize the moment and having the courage to take your best swing. And failure is a part of success. There is no such thing as a bed of roses all your life, but failure will never stand in the way of success if you learn from it. When I read the names of your loved one, I invite you to rise in their honor. And then we'll ask everyone to rise as we chant the words of Kaddish. Lost to the Beth Am community in this past week, this period of Shiva, where Ruth Marks, the honorary mother of Bria Silbert, and Sherman Shore, the father of Jeffrey and Cynthia, and the grandfather of Adam. In this period of Shloshim, 30 days since passing, we remember Sidney Levine, Nancy Triger, Jerome Hyman, Edgar Shane, Myra Enkelis. And in this period of Yartzeit, the anniversary since passing, we remember with love Lois Aronson, Laser Ballon, Kalman Barak, Howard Baumgarten, David Beckman, Layla Bine, Sarissa Sally Benjamin, Catherine Sheline Branston, Sandra Breslauer, Harriet Brown, Marvin Davidson, Josephine DePoo, Eva Deutsch, Dale Eastman, Irina Fanyang, Dr. Irving Feinstein, Edna Feinstein, Chana Finkel, Donald Flaxman, Yvonne Frackman, Perry Fredkin, Victor Friedman, Rachel Futterwhite, Martha Rottenberg Gallagher, Mildred Nordgarber, Gerald Goldberg, Isaac Goretsky, Eve Greenfield, Helene R. Greenstein, Mildred Greenwald, Richard Gumberts, Mark Hauser, Donna Maureen Heeger, Samuel Heeger, Milton Hollenberg, Peter Jacoby, Tilly Kine, William P. Carlin, Kenyon Kirk, Walter Colm, Raisa Kriniskaya, Faina Crudy, Sophia Levy, Reuven Levy, Mark Lomberg, Jack Laurel, Lori Luft, Abraham Lurie, Jack Martyr, Phyllis Margulies, Irvin Mintz, Isia Mivaskovsky, Ricky Normanton, Sophia Achenstuck, Bernard Ormland, Catherine Ozer, Mabel Peak, Joan Pizzo, David Plout, Evgena Plotkina, Harold Rabkin, John Radel, Chaim Rappaport, Murray Regensberger, Leon Roskoff, Muriel Rostin, Luba Ravashevsky, Lillian Salter, Francis Schaffner, Bertha Siegel, Jack Siegel, Carolyn Sinclair, Miriam Snyder, Stanley Srago, Saul Srago, Ralph Stitch, Dr. Sidney H. Stone, Beatrice Teitler, Etta Tolchin, Susan Trost, Isaac Van Garten, Jody Weber, Elise Weiner, Doris Weissman, Devora Leah Wolf, Chaya Ziborviskaya, and Richard Ziegler. If you're remembering somebody else on this Shabbat, somebody else you hold dear to you who's passed away, either at this time or just somebody that you're thinking of, I invite you to rise and say their name out loud. Even if you're in a room by yourself, I encourage you to speak their name out loud. Words of Mourner's Kaddish are on page 598. 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'amad divrach kirute bi'amlich malchute, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, b'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulmei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekusha b'richu. Leila min kol berchata v'shirata. Tush bechata b'nechemata damiram b'yama b'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu b'al kol Yisrael b'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mrumav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to all of us, peace to all of Israel, peace to all people across the world, to which we say together, Amen.
Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen.
Don't forget to join us in the foyer after services. Say hi. Next Shabbat, a really special Shabbat that is our cantor's favorite Shabbat. It's Shabbat Shira, our Shabbat of song, where we celebrate so much, including the crossing of the Red Sea. I already have somebody ready. Not yet, though. We'll sing together our song of peace. Oseh Shalom.
Adonai Oz.
Adonai Oz, not Osei Shalom. But it's also about peace. Who would have thought Judaism has more than one song about peace?
So many songs of peace. Adonai yivarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo. Shalom Adonai Oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo. Adonai Oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo.
No.
Take off the cover. Take off the cover. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Welcome to 125 Grandview.
Shalom